welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have Chuck Wright, formerly of Quiet Riot, and he has a new solo album coming out on May 20th, right around the corner, called Sheltering Sky. I had a chance to listen to it. It's really awesome. I recommend checking it out. We'll get into that in just a little bit when we bring Chuck in. But before we do that, let me give you a little update on what I have going on in the world. First off, this past weekend, pretty freaking busy. Saturday was the big day. If you've tuned into recent episodes, you'll know that I was working on a century ride. We're building up to it with my buddy Joe. We rode most weekends and would get out and hit the trails, building up miles to try and hit 100 in the century ride. There was no quitting us, really. So we made it happen. We got out on Saturday morning, got to Santa Rosa, California at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then went out and biked. It's like an all-day thing. I mean, this is a long ride, and I'll give some context for this by sharing a photo of the path that we took and how it turned out as well. So let me pull that up here. And all right, so here's the Strava clip, but really we can pinch in and look. We started at Luther Burbank Center in Santa Rosa and went south, west, and then up north as well, and just drove through cities. Most of it was beautiful, through vineyards as well, and did a full loop really, ending back in Santa Rosa. And as you can see, it took me 6 hours and 50 minutes of time on the bike. There were 4 rest stops along the way to stop and get nutrients like bananas, grapes, some water, what have you. And I mean, there were some hills that were very difficult. The total elevation, as you can see, over 4,700 feet, which is no small feet, so to speak. 12 miles in, I brought 2 water bottles, and 12 miles in, one of the water bottles had fell off my bike, and the lid broke off, and I couldn't find it, so I just had to take the rest of the water bottle with me and manage until we got to the rest stop, and then toss it and just deal with using one water bottle. There were some people who were on tandem bikes as well, which is pretty cool. This is a photo of me and my buddy Joe at the finish line. Pretty damn proud, I'll say, that we were able to finish 100 miles, because this is something that 4 months ago we didn't think was even possible. We wouldn't have even thought was possible. We signed up for it together, and when we do that, we're committed, right? I'm able to get my buddy Joe to commit to it, and he's a man of his word and makes it happen, which is awesome, because I don't think I could have done this by myself either. It definitely wouldn't have been as enjoyable, and it was fun. I mean, we were on our bikes for almost 7 hours, and there was soreness here and there by the end of it, for sure. But we crossed the end, and we were able to celebrate, have some barbecue and beer, and then come on back to town, and with that checked off our list, which is really, really cool. And then the next day, I got back to my new house that I just bought in Vacaville, and did a lot of work on that. My garage is looking really great. The other parts of the house are coming together as well. Kitchen's looking good. And we put my buddy Jens, who does the podcast with me sometimes when he can, he came to Napa and helped me disassemble my son's loft bed, which has 50 Allen wrench screws, and so we took that apart together, popped it in his SUV, we drove over with the dogs, and put it back together in Vacaville, which is a huge load off my plate. I'm so grateful that he was able to help me do that, and that gets me one big step closer to finishing this move here in the next 2 weeks or so. I'll be completely out of my house really by the 21st, except for Bottle Rock Festival, which is coming up. We do have interviews with more Bottle Rock bands, by the way, in the coming weeks as we lead into Bottle Rock, and then probably some on the other end of Bottle Rock as well that we do on site. So looking forward to that. So much great content coming, and so many great bands coming up around the corner. So I definitely subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't done that, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube. Lots of different ways to follow, like, and subscribe, and all that fun stuff. We don't tell you not to do that enough as well, but also on socials with Facebook and Instagram. And I don't always do Twitter. I'm not a big fan of it. So especially with the Elon Musk taking over, who knows, right? What that'll turn into. But I don't know. Yeah, I get most of the satisfaction from Facebook and Instagram. So just saying, that's where the content is. All right. So let's talk about Chuck Wright. He's spent decades on and off with Quiet Riot, and has so many great stories to share from his time with Quiet Riot, as well as the other bands he's been in, some artists that he's worked with as well. I won't spoil any of that. Let's just bring him in. Let's bring in Chuck.
Great. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great. How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. I did my first interview for the new record a little while ago with Canada. I'm starting the press thing that you got to do, and this is new for me because this is my debut solo record, and after all these years, decades actually, of doing bands and doing albums for other people, over 100 albums, it's interesting doing it all myself.
Yeah, it's your thing now, and the Zoom. I mean, I'll tell you, I love it because we used to do all of our interviews in concert at the concerts, which you have to do around. You fit it in between sound check and dinner, and
it's loud.
Yeah, it's loud. You got the other band sound checking in the background.
Yeah,
when you got 20 minutes with the band, and this, it's more free form. You get the person in their home, and we can just let it roll how it goes, and
right
it's more, and talk to people all over the world also, which is really cool. So
that's the best. That the reach nowadays is fantastic because of that.
Yeah. So thank you for taking the time. I've checked out the new album, and I dig it, and I know you put a lot of work into it. It's really freaking great.
It's all the work happened because of the pandemic. I was so busy pre-pandemic between touring on the weekends with Quiet Riot, and then I run a thing called Ultimate Jam Night, which I'm coordinating between 40 and 100 musicians, pro musicians. It was weekly at that point. Now it's bi-weekly because it's just too much. It's really hard to do. Each week's a different theme, and you got to do different artwork, and you got to do different everything, and get a hold of the musicians, coordinate it all. But it's been really successful. We just did a benefit for Ukraine, the World Central Kitchen. The last show, which was a huge success, was packed, and we had Steelheart, the Bullet Boys, and a bunch of other really great bands down, and great artists playing. So
yeah, lots of people coming together for a good cause, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, who knew? I mean, you probably saw my new video for my new single, Throwing Stones. That's actually an anti-war messaged song, but it was written lyrically before this Russian invasion happened. I sent the music up to Joe Retta, who's an amazing singer, and I just think he outdid himself on this. It's one friend reviewer compared it to Primus meets Stevie Wonder on this, which is kind of unique. I mean, I wanted to make the song unique and modern, but still have like some 70s soulfulness to it with the funk, and I think we achieved that with this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the video, so epic. I mean, the flashing lights, the monitors, everything. Like, it's really just a freaking rock video, which you don't have too many of those these days, right?
Yeah, I would try to capture that kind of emotion with the energy of the song. And Joe Retta couldn't be here to do the video, so we figured a good way around that would be to use TV monitors. Like, actually, we set up like in a bomb shelter type setup, and where all the TV monitors are, if you look at it again, you'll notice there's newspaper plastered all over the walls and on the floor, and everything's just totally disheveled looking. And so we were able to make the video work with him not being here that way. And I'm very blessed to work with who I think is a genius, a guy named Tim Jansen's cinematographer, editor, and he's also mixed the song. He's won awards as a film scorer, and we've become very good friends. He did my last video with me, Army of Me, which was my Bjork cover, which really surprised people when they're when they think of me, they don't think of me as coming from that world, but you know, I'm all over the map musically, as you'll hear on the record. We cover a lot of territory, and there's 40 guests on it, all people that are friends of mine that really liked what I was doing and wanted to be involved. So and I was very fortunate to surround myself with some of the best guys for the best guy for the part, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is how it worked.
And so from the video side, I know you're like creating a video production company, right?
Yeah, well, you know, it's unfortunately the budgets aren't there, you know, like they used to be. But yeah, we're able to, through Tim's talent, and I produce and I find locations and I put together. I do all the. He's the creative guy with the lens and editing, and I do all the other things. We're able to create a product or a video that looks like it was super expensive and it's not. And that's the thing, you know, everybody knows the music things have been so you know, just brought down as far as what there is financially for things nowadays, budgets and everything. So you could still deliver a great product.
Oh yeah, you could shoot a great video from your iPhone, right? Like, I mean,
well,
if you do it,
you can, you know, the lighting's a key thing and editing's
that's
a
the
key
thing.
thing.
You need other, you need other supplies as well. But you know, as far as actually shooting it, you didn't used to be able to do that sort of thing. So
no, and you know what? The way that this whole thing started, and it has to do with the iPhone. It's when the pandemic hit. You know, I was sitting there looking at everybody's like just going, "What's going on?" And you're looking around the world, and there's no people anywhere, and it was like an apocalyptic feel to it. And I took that and wrote this instrumental piece, recorded it, I played everything, and I edited myself a video together with a lot of drone footage of empty cities and just the feeling of it. I had one character, there was one man left on the world who's in a hazmat suit. It totally had that sci-fi feel to it, and I put that out. And then I was contacted by Troy Lucetta, who plays drums with Tesla, and he goes, "Man, I love this song. I'd love to play drums on it." So I said, "Oh, I've never thought about that," because I wasn't thinking in terms of making an album or anything. You know, I just recording music, and so he recorded drums on it, and then Alan Hines, who's a really well-known jazz fusion guitar player, joined in on it. So it became another whole thing together, and that's kind of how this whole album developed. Is I was creating music, and I would say, "Hey, check this out," to friends of mine, and they wanted to jump on board and get involved.
yeah. Now, Whitney Todd, tell me about working with her, 'cause she's on 3 songs and she has a great voice.
Whitney, Whitney is somebody that I've had sing at Ultimate Jam Night, and I thought she was the perfect voice for Army of Me. And that's where our relationship started, was working on that song and developing that. And then we co-wrote a song together, and then I had her sing on another song. So yeah, she's on 3. She's amazingly talented. And she also, Tim is her guy, you know, so that's how I kind of got into a relationship, working relationship with Tim Jansen's, was through her, which it's been wonderful. We actually all just got together yesterday and went to see a movie, but yeah, she's an amazing talent, and I'm actually doing some bass for her new solo record right now. So yeah, we're all working together, you know, creating what we can.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of it like virtually, like send files back and forth because it was done during the COVID piece? Or?
The whole record, the whole thing was done that way. It was done with, I play guitar a lot on the album. Bass, of course. In fact, there's songs with 3 basses on it. If you can bass, 8-string bass, and then playing chordal bass. There's a couple fusion type instrumentals, but only 2, and the rest of it's all musical, you know, with singers. I mean, not music, the whole thing's musical, but I mean, with singers on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, not instrumental, yeah.
But I play acoustic guitar on most things, and just that's how it kind of happened organically. I just wanted to create music that I'd want to listen to. I didn't have an agenda, like, okay, you got to write 8 songs that are all like hard rock and in this vein, which if there are certain labels, if you're involved with them, you are restricted, strongly restricted to a certain style and approach. Where working with Cleopatra and Brian over there, they just basically gave me the reins and let me do. I gave them 5 songs before. I showed them 5 songs. I go, "This is great," and the video Army of Me was made, and that's what I used to shop around. and he just let me do what I want and not, intervene with, oh, you can't do that, you can't do a Celtic song, what are you talking about, so. But yeah, there's a
Yeah.
full Celtic piece on the record.
Yeah. And so what did you envision it when you went into it, like as 11 songs? Like, okay, this is about what I want it to be, or
No, there's a lot, actually, there's a lot of material I didn't finish. I just was writing and recording, and after the 5 songs were done is when I decided, I go, wow, I think I've got an album here. Let's see if I can get somebody behind it, because I could just put out something myself, but it's not going to get the kind of attention or attraction, not having a label behind it with their PR team and the different people involved. So it's more legitimate this way, so that's why it happened. After the first 5 songs were completed, I was able to move on and create more, and there's more that weren't finished either.
yeah, stuff are you already envisioning kind of the next album? You're like a step
No,
ahead, or
not at this
it's
point.
too
Right
far?
now, all my focus is doing right by this record, and that's why we just did that video and the video before, and I'm probably going to do another video, because that's really what generates attention more than anything nowadays. I mean, terrestrial radio's kind of toast, and trying to get on playlists and hope that just spreading the word. For me, this is just about letting people know what I'm about musically. After working with bands and for so many other artists and their vision, this is my thing, so they can really get a feel what I'm about.
Yeah. And so over the years, I mean, having supported so many other bands, we can talk about Quiet Riot obviously in a little bit, but did it ever cross your mind to do a solo album? Like, hey, I want to scratch this itch. I got things in my pocket I want to.
Well, honestly, it has been suggested by people, hey, you should just do your own thing. I used to write with House of Lords. I was a major writer, and I've written for other things, and I was just always too busy, to really take the time to do my own thing. So, that, I guess, if there was any positive, which it's hard to say there's a positive thing to a pandemic because we lost so many people, but I was able to glean something positive out of a horrible situation.
That's a good way to put it, because I mean, yeah, it wasn't, the situation as a whole wasn't positive, and a lot of people, and especially musicians, also found themselves in this spot where live concerts stopped, right? Like, I mean,
Totally.
I was going through withdrawals, like I must go to a show, and it's just you weren't able to do it, and you make
exactly.
do with Zoom things, but
that's and live nowadays, as you probably know, is one of the only real sources of income for musicians, is getting out playing live, because you really don't make what you did even close back in the day in the 80s or whatever, selling product, because everybody can just get it on Spotify or wherever, it's so you basically have to play live, to generate any selling merchandise and what you get for the shows,
Yeah. So tell me, I want to go back to the kind of the beginning. Like, what music was on in your household as a kid? Were your parents musical influences at all?
Actually, not really. I just had my mom, and I remember being a kid singing Roy Orbison's "Pretty Woman" to her all the time.
Yeah.
It kind of started with I remember my sister coming in telling me, my older sister, she's 4 years older, going, yeah, there's this new band that look totally crazy, like they're a bunch of crazy guys called the Beatles. You got to check them out. And I remember, checking out the Beatles, and I got my tennis racket out and standing on the fireplace pretending that all the little shag carpets were people, and I'm playing. And I guess I envisioned that because I have played for, a carpet full of people when you're doing big festivals and things. But as far as once I started getting into playing, I mean, I took some guitar lessons, but then when I was 14, almost 15, some kids in the neighborhood had a band, and they were older than me, but I was big for my age. And they said, you play guitar, right? And I go, a little bit. And they go, do you think you could play bass? And I go, bass? Isn't that just like 4 strings? Right? And I go, let me ask my mom. So my mom got me a bass. And my biggest influence starting out was Jack Bruce, with Cream. And I did my first gig, which was at a UCLA fraternity party. And I made 75 bucks, drank some beer, and the girls thought I was cute. At that time, I was in a military academy for almost 8 years. I was going to go to the Air Force Academy next. And I made the decision after that gig that this is what I want to do. And my mom supported me with it. And a great day for me was handing her a platinum record with her name on it, because she always supported my choices. But,
That's awesome. What a great gift, huh?
Yeah, it all started, musically, it started with Jack Bruce. And an interesting anecdotal story is I was on tour with Carmine, who I don't know if you know Carmine.
Yeah.
And
I've interviewed him a couple times.
And Vanilla Fudge, and the opening act's bass player had recently had inherited a substantial amount of money. And I went over to his house and he goes, check that bass out. It was Jack Bruce's bass that he did Disraeli Gears on, which is the first song I ever learned. And I got to play the bass for the first song I've ever learned, which was Sunshine of Your Love. So it's kind of a crazy story,
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. And you went to Black Sabbath's first show, is that right?
Oh, well, growing up in LA, very blessed to have seen acts like I saw Yes for $5 at the Whiskey. We're driving, my friend, I didn't have a driver's license. My friend's driving. He goes, hey, look, I heard that band's supposed to be good. I go, yeah, I heard that band, Yes, is supposed to be good. That totally changed, honestly, changed my whole direction of music, and started getting into all the prog bands and all that back then, as well as Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. I saw Black Sabbath, and the interesting thing about that show was at the Whiskey, the stage is here, and they had the load-in door, and above the load-in door was this ramp above it where they would put gear in between when they would switch bands out. They put Ozzy up there. So Ozzy's on this ramp away from the band because they were so loud. I guess he couldn't stand on the stage, but that was the loudest band I'd ever heard at that point. My pant legs were moving. It was so, it's crazy. I've seen, I saw Queen's first concerts in LA, David Bowie's first concerts in LA.
Wow.
And that was my education. I wasn't like, I'm not a schooled guy that I went to, Music Institute or whatever. My education was seeing great musicians do their craft.
Yeah. And so when you started getting on stage yourself, did it feel natural? Was there any nervousness at all? Or
when I first started out, no, it's just getting on stage has always been a real natural feeling thing for me, as long as I have my bass in front of me. If I don't know what to do with myself, but yeah, I've been playing live since I was a kid, so it's certainly natural. And I was really blessed. My very first tour in 1985 was sold out arenas, which, talk about lucky. My very first tour was with Jafria opening for Deep Purple when they did their Perfect Strangers tour when they reunited. So that was sold out, and then we jumped off that to Foreigner, and they had a #1 song with I Want to Know What Love Is out. So that's how it also is. My first touring experience was playing for 15,000-20,000 people a night. So it was pretty amazing.
There's no breaking in for you. You just had to get out there and do it.
Boom. I'll never forget the first night standing on the side of the stage going, the lights go out, and I heard that crowd. I just went, oh my God. The energy the band had was just amazing that night. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard, unless you do it, it's kind of hard for a person that's never experienced that to really know what that feels like, but it's a pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah. Tell me about that Foreigner tour. What was that like? Do you have any fond memories from that tour?
Well, that's the one we did right after. Just that those guys were super great to us, and they had one funny story is every night they would have a different choir, gospel choir, up on stage, and they had white robes, and they had the choir director who actually ended up singing with Pink Floyd, but she was there. And on the last show, we talked them into, not the band didn't know about this, talked them into letting us come out with the choir in the robes. And Lou Grant's singing, he looks back and he sees us going, I want to know what love is. They totally lost it there. They also, another thing, they had an angled stage. It was really difficult to perform on it. That's the first time that I've ever fallen. I did a spin, landed on my back on stage, and I'm like, I go, what should I do? Should I milk this and just lay here and act like I did it on purpose? I remember that. Those are a couple of memories from that era.
You were able to shake it off though, and be
okay. Yeah. But I milked it. I figured I'm down there. I'll try to make something out of it.
Yeah. So talk to me about Satire and your time.
Satire?
Satire, excuse me.
Oh yeah. Well, that was like my first real band that played out and the clubs here in LA. I was the main writer for the band. It was a science fiction prog rock band, kind of if you can imagine Led Zeppelin meets Genesis. We had costume changes, and we were the first band in rock and roll history. Most people don't know this, to use Krypton lasers. The laser shows that you see all the time, where they're bouncing them off mirrors and things. We were the first band. We knew the guy that developed technology up at Pasadena Tech, and we met with them, and we said, hey, can we combine? We got a screen, and he would do projections behind us, and we had stages made that looked like flying saucers for the drums and the keyboards. We had this huge Keith Emerson looking keyboard set up. It was, and we handed out comic. The one thing that we did was called the Trilogy, and the singer was a great artist, and he did like a comic book thing. So we handed out playbills that were like a comic book of that. So it was a whole thing that was, but unfortunately, even though we were packing things out at that time, bands like the Knack, the Motels, the Fix, all the new wave things were happening. So the record labels are going, yeah, this is great, but what are we gonna do with it, at that point?
Yeah. So tell me about the call to join Quiet Riot. How did that come about?
Well, that was really, when I had Satter, my guitar player was playing with Kevin Dubrow, which at that point it was Randy and Rudy had left Quiet Riot, and it became Dubrow, which is just Kevin's last name, Kevin Dubrow. And then he suggested me for the bass, so I did that. So we were in both bands at the same time, and we ended up doing the demos. That became the Mental Health record. Most of that album, Mental Health, are demos.
Wow.
That's how I ended up on Bang Your Head and Don't Want to Let You Go, and I sing on every track as well. But yeah, that's how that all happened. And then Randy passed and Rudy rejoined the band. And at that time I was with Satter. I go, okay, that's fine. Who knew that it would sell 2 million copies, But you just, it changed the whole fabric of the music scene. Took all the new wave thing went away, and they opened the doors with Come On Feel the Noise for the the big hair metal rock bands or hard rock and bands to kind of take over the territory and on radio and everything. I just
Whose idea was it?
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember every label in town wanting a band that had that vibe to it, that the hair and the big anthem choruses and all that. They were just grabbing them all.
Yeah. Whose idea was it to cover Come On Feel the Noise?
That actually was the producer's, Spencer Proffer's idea. He brought the song in, and Kevin was super resistant about it, about doing outside material. And I remember very clearly being in the control room with Kevin and Spencer, and we were talking about the song, and I said, Kevin, I go, look at what we have. Do you hear a pop single here? Do you hear anything that could be a big radio hit? And he thought about it. He goes, oh, okay. So he finally caved in, and the band did the song, and that changed everything. I mean, as much as he hated it and didn't want to do it, it made the band, because Bang Your Head came out and did pretty good, but then it went away. Come On Feel the Noise came out, broke it wide open. They re-released Bang Your Head. As even though it was released once before, they re-released it and became huge. Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, it's one of those songs where it's like knocking on heaven's door with Guns N' Roses or something, where even though another artist did it originally, you associate it so much with Quiet Riot that it's
most people
don't even think about it.
No, most people don't know it's a song by Slade. Just like there's a lot of Led Zeppelin songs and things where they took ideas from old blues guys. I had no idea. I thought it was their song, or a Cream had songs that I always, because when I was a kid, I just thought they wrote it, but it actually was a cover of a Blind Melon Johnson or whatever song.
Yeah.
Or Under That Sign, for instance, is a blues tune. Huh?
Yeah. Do you remember where you were when you first heard Come On Feel the Noise on the radio?
Well, not that song. I remember hearing Bang Your Head for the first time.
Yeah.
And thinking to myself, man, the bass sounds so killer. I'm so glad it's loud, because it like carries that tune. And I've done a lot of records where I have to struggle to hear, what did I play there? I can't hear it, but the bass is a big part of the way that song sounds. I'm very proud of that, by the way, but yeah.
For sure. For sure. And the doors of that open and everything. I mean, it's one of those songs that just lives on, even, I mean, so many years later.
Yeah, you hear it at football games all the time, like when they're going to commercial, the whole crowd singing it, and people were coming out. They would always tell me stories about, oh, the first time I heard that's the first album I ever owned, or my mom made me throw that album out because of the lyrics on it, or whatever. Everybody has a story about where they were or what they were doing when they first heard that or when they got the album.
Lost my virginity to it,
Yeah, no, I've heard that story too. I said, the back of my car listening to Come On Feeling, I've heard it all, man.
I don't doubt it. It. Yeah, and Quiet Riot has also covered Highway to Hell.
Well, yeah, I wasn't involved with that. That was
you weren't part of that.
No, that was you with that band. I've been in and out of it 5 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my own band, House of Lords, on RCA, and I played with Alice Cooper, Ted Nugent, and you're from up north. You probably know Ronnie Montrose and Montrose. So it's just in and out my whole career. Now I'm on my own again, and I'm doing my own thing right now. So, which is cool.
Yeah, and so with you having been in and out of the band so much, I know you did your last show with Quiet Riot last year in October. Do you see yourself kind of going back at some point, or is it right now just fully focused on your solo stuff?
Yeah, I'm focused on that. I'm also playing with an all-star classic Legends of Classic Rock with the original drummer, founding member of White Lion, and Terry Luce from Great White, and a keyboard player that played with Ozzy. And we just did 5 weeks out, and that's a lot of fun. We do songs from our band's repertoire. We have a couple shows coming up, but I'm doing that for fun. But my focus totally is on Sheltering Sky and that project and that band. I mean, it's not a band; it's my thing. Myself.
It's you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about a tour? Do you envision touring up north?
With my own thing?
Yeah.
I've been asked that before, and actually to pull off what's on this album would take a lot of musicians and a lot of money.
Yeah.
I need to be Roger Waters to do it properly, to do it right. So I right now I don't imagine that happening. Maybe a hybrid of like playing some of the songs that I could pull off with a smaller setup, and then maybe playing songs from my past as part of a thing. You know what I mean? Like taking songs that I wrote from, like, with House of Lords or whoever, and doing it all in one show. That could probably work.
Yeah, I mean, you bring 40 people in, I mean, that makes it pretty tough for sure. So
well, plus the variety of music and stylistically what's going on is a big thing too. So yeah, violin and acoustic guitars and whatever, it's a lot.
For sure. You mentioned Alice Cooper. Tell me about your time with Alice Cooper. What did you learn from him?
Well, I toured with him 2002, 2003, and we did 75 cities in 17 countries. Started in Moscow and ended in Lisbon, and it was one of the highlights of my career, my life, playing with that organization and being part of a Broadway type show. Which it very much was, with you needed to stand in a certain spot. I remember him hitting me. He has a riding crop. He hit me with it. And he goes, where you're supposed to be. And I went, I'm sorry. Just he's kidding around, but I'm not supposed to be where I was standing anyway for his coming where he's going to move. And anyway, it's a pretty elaborate show, but and fun. And there was actually my favorite Spinal Tap. I'm sure you're familiar with Spinal Tap. My favorite Spinal Tap moment, they do this big buildup where he's in a straitjacket, and they pull him out of the straitjacket and they throw him in a guillotine, and there's the drums going bah, bah, and the executioner is holding the rope, and he's there, the blade's about to fall, he lets go of the rope, the blade stops halfway, and the head still falls off.
Yeah.
So that's and everybody goes, ah. Didn't work. It was pretty fun. He also got stuck in the tube once too. There's this tube that fills up with smoke, and he couldn't get out. I remember that.
Oh no! Oh
yeah,
no!
Totally, just straight out of Spinal Tap. It happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that must have been an amazing experience, though. All in all, right?
It was, and it was a
there's
great
not many
band.
shows like that.
It was a
Yeah.
great band too, because Eric Singer, who's in Kiss, was the drummer, and Teddy Zigzag, who's a friend of mine. I did his solo record, and he was from Guns N' Roses, was on it, and Eric Dover. I don't know if you know Eric from Jellyfish. He's Slash's guitar player, singer, was
Okay.
fantastic. Yeah, and he's a friend, and they do Ultimate Jam Night often. You know, come
Yeah.
out, we all get together and play. It's fun.
Yeah. So Ultimate Jam Night, and I know we've talked about that just a couple of times, but I want to dig into that a little bit more. I know that was something that you were brought in on, and then you took over.
Well, actually, the way Ultimate Jam Night, I wasn't brought in on. I started that entity.
Okay.
What happened was there was a little small bar going on, jam going on with Kenny Aronoff and a couple guys. I don't know if you know Kenny's a pretty famous drummer, and they really just would do the same songs every night, and people would come down and they'd have one or two people sit in. So it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't really growing. And then they had to go on the road with John Fogerty, and they asked me to take over the night, and I did. And Gilby and other people, I started getting more people to come down, where I was getting up to about 35 guests, and the thing blew up. It became this huge thing. Then that club closed down, and people kept asking me, hey, when are you going to do the jam again? When are you going to do the jam again? So I found a venue in Hollywood and started it up again. And they said, we'll give you a couple weeks to see how it goes. First week was packed. So we ended up being there for 55 weeks. And then we moved it over to a bigger venue at the Whiskey A Go-Go, which is a legendary venue. And Mikey, the owner, when I met with him, he goes, well, I want you to know residencies in general don't work here at the Whiskey A Go-Go, but we'll give it a shot. And we've been there ever since. So, and we're back. We just started back this year. You know, we had to take 18 months off because of the pandemic, but we're back and going strong.
Yeah, there's one show where the fire marshal had to be called in the show.
Well, that was at the other venue, and that was because we were able to get the Eat 'Em and Smile band, and David Lee Roth was there, and word got out. It was on the news. The club wouldn't listen to me. I said, you got to stop letting people in. They're going to shut us down. But they wanted people, you know, and yeah, so we got shut down before that could ever happen, which was, unfortunate.
It was a free show, right? So that's,
well, yeah, I've kept it free. It's all about, you know, I mean, I'm having all these musicians. I'm not going to charge money and then have them play for free. And then it's like, that's not what it's about. It's about music community, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, tell me about the work that you put in terms of being able to navigate so many musicians and kind of get them involved and, you know, playing a couple of songs.
It's not easy. They call me the cat herder, because it's like herding cats, you know, getting everybody on the same page. The player first, I say, hey, do you want to play? This is what we're doing. We pick up a song, and then usually I build the song around the singer, and I pick the right players for that style of song. Like if it's a metal song, it's going to be these guys. If it's a pop song, it's going to be these guys. And I reach out and I kind of put it all together. Everybody knows when they're on, you know, like what time of the night they're going to be on and what key the song's in. I usually send a link so they know how the song's going to end, which version of the song it is. So everybody's on the same page, so you don't have train wrecks. And the tuning too, because some songs you're tuned down a half step, or it's in standard tuning. So all that stuff has to be worked out ahead of time. And so far, so good. It runs like a machine. We're usually never more than 5 minutes late, which is kind of rare in a jam situation, but it's not really, the word jam is a misnomer in that it's not like, okay, hey, do you want to come play? This is a setup, pre-arranged show. We have a very intricate grid that everybody gets so they know what's going on.
Yeah, and you have themes like a particular artist, like Queen or Hendrix or whatever.
Yeah, and we've even done crazy themes like Mustache Night. So it's all the bands, and we hand out mustaches, you know, and we did the full Rocky Horror Picture Show, full costume twice, you know, things. And we did Spinal Tap. Speaking of Spinal Tap, we did that whole thing. We even had a miniature, you know, thing come down and people dancing around like fairies, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
How did the Rocky Horror turn out? How was that?
Unbelievable. Pauly Z, I don't know if you know Pauly, but he sings for Sweet, and he has a thing called Bohemian Queen. He totally nails Frankfurter. And you got to have somebody that can be that character.
Yeah.
I mean, he does it to the T. It's pretty amazing. And people can find out more about Ultimate Jam Night at ultimatejamnight.com. There's a website up that has photos and information and video, and you can kind of get an idea of what the whole thing's about there.
Yeah. Have you done Bowie? I'm not sure if you said.
We did do a Bowie night. Yeah. When he passed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we had people that like Carmine Rojas, who played bass for Bowie, was there.
Yeah.
You know, we try to reach out, connect people that were involved. And one of the fun things I get to do is I got Greg Wright, who did the Thriller tour with Michael Jackson, and Sugarfoot Moffett, who played drums with Michael Jackson on the Thriller tour, and they hadn't seen each other. I put them together, got them out. We did some Michael Jackson stuff, which was great.
I'm sure they're so excited too to be able
to everybody reconnect. And that's one of the joys. And getting people to play with people that they've always wanted to play with. Or I like to take young new players that I think are really exceptional and put them with seasoned pros. And it's a great learning experience for them.
Yeah. And I mean, what you're doing is my favorite sort of thing. I wish I lived closer and could go to the whiskey shows, because like my favorite concert of all time was a Bowie celebration after he passed, celebrating David Bowie with Gary Oldman up here in San Francisco. And and it was the same sort of thing. There's 70 musicians, like half of them were from SoCal, half from Northern California. And it just 3.5 hours of Bowie, and the artist cycling in, doing a song or two, and we got to talk to a lot of the artists that were doing it and everything. It's like same sort of thing, like some of the members who are in Bowie's band or worked with him in different capacities. It's incredible.
We did one recently. Well, we did one for Eddie Van Halen, and Ralph from Steel Panther came out because he's known for Atomic Punks. And we did one. We do a Randy Rhoads one every year, and we actually have Randy's amplifiers and equipment, and his sister and his brother come to the show and talk and keep his memory alive as well.
Oh, that's so awesome. I mean, what a great way to just like be able to mix it up and bring people together to celebrate music.
Yeah.
That's that capacity, right?
That's what we do. And we try to keep it, I like diversity. So some nights we'll have R&B with horns, and then we'll do a metal song, and then we'll do, whatever, a pop tune. I like to keep that variety going as much as possible as well.
Yeah. I want to ask you just, before a couple more things before we wrap. Mental health. I mean, we talked about that a little bit, but I just want to know, kind of for you, what does it mean, like when you hear, okay, this was the first metal album to reach the Billboard 200 charts. Like this is groundbreaking, and
more than that, it was number one.
Yeah, it's number one. Yeah, that
was the first metal album to go number one, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that history. Musically, that's not what I'm really I'm about. I like playing it and it's great, but when people hear my album, they'll know what I'm more about musically. But I'm very proud of that being a part of my history, no doubt.
Yeah. And during your Quiet Riot years, like, was there a particular moment that they kind of stood out, either on tour or in the studio and making making an album that you're like, this is what it's all about for me. This is the pinnacle. What was it for you that kind of scratched that itch and just like made you most proud?
With Quiet Riot?
Yeah.
Near the end, like 2007, before Kevin passed away, we did Sweden Rock, which is a big festival in Europe that we've always wanted to do. And the look on Kevin's face when he turned around, he goes, this is what it's all about, And the band was on fire, and there was, I don't know, 55, 60,000 people. And that was after a long road of like slugging it out in clubs and then building it back up. And that's right now, thinking off the top of my head, that stands out. I can picture him he had this long gold lame jacket looking back on, now you're talking, he was very happy. And then shortly after that, he passed away, so at least I know he had that moment, back. This is what it's about moment,
Yeah, a brilliant moment for him and for you.
Yeah,
and,
for the whole thing and for Frank.
Yeah. In terms of the Bay Area, because I'm sure you hit the Bay Area so many times, what's your favorite place to play?
Well, actually, oddly enough, the Bay Area wasn't really a real popular area for Quiet Riot and touring that much. I remember playing the Cow Palace
Yeah.
Back in the day. Stone Pony, I think, is a place out there, right? Well, it was in
I'm
Palo
not
Alto.
familiar. Where's that?
It was a club in Palo Alto. I remember
Okay.
playing. But yeah, and I love the town. It's fantastic. The last gig we did though was a corporate gig on a multiple level, like Mississippi gambling boat kind of thing, and we went right underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. It was pretty awesome. I just love the Chinatown's amazing. Going to the wharf's amazing. It's a beautiful place, but it's a pretty expensive place, that's for sure. I know that.
It's not cheap.
But I really love that city. It's an amazing city by the bay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, tell me, what does the next year look like for you? What do you have to look forward to? From here, this album's coming out in like 2 weeks, so I know that's really exciting.
Well, that's the impetus of everything for me right now. Is I'm focused on, like, talking with you, getting the word out. I just, for me, I just want people to have a listen, check it out. I hope it moves you and touches you somewhere. And I plan on doing another video. I haven't decided on the song yet. I'm going to probably go with a less aggressive song, like Giving Up the Ghost is one I might do, or See You on the Other Side. I haven't decided on that, but definitely leaning towards showing what actually the majority of the album is more of a mellower cinematic vibe than the first two songs that I put out were the most aggressive ones I have on the record. But I know I'm known as a rock guy, so I figured I better put out some rock stuff right away.
Got to get some rock on there.
Yeah, I got to send out the rock right away. Let them know that what I can do that way too. But yeah, my focus.
Though, yeah.
I'll be doing some some live things. I have a killer band here in town called Acoustic Saints that I play with. We have violin, mandolin, acoustic. I play fretless the whole time, and it's a blast playing with those guys. We've been together 10 years. We reinterpret like Zeppelin and Don Henley and things like that in our own way. I have a show with them next weekend.
When you do that, like when you go in and kind of try and take a song that's already established and kind of reestablish it and make it your own, what's most important to you to bring into that process?
You kind of try to take it away from the approach that the original artist did and kind of do your own thing with it. And that's usually like tempo change, key change, like maybe some chord changes or arrangement change. There's different ways to go about doing that. Sometimes, as we said earlier, sometimes the reinterpretation is stronger than the original,
Yeah, for sure. Well, Chuck, I want to thank you for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. I dig the new album, and I know you're ready for it to.
So did you get to hear the whole thing? You got to hear the whole thing?
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what has gone out. I know that for sure the two singles have been heard. I wasn't sure that people got to actually experience the whole record itself.
Yeah, I've experienced it, and you talk about the different levels of music, and you got the rock songs there, right? But then it slows down, and you have the songs. There's the Bjork cover, of course. But just the different feels and vibes that you take throughout it. But it feels so natural at the same time, and it flows together.
It kind of all flows, tells a story. I know there's even that the one song, "Cradle of the Sun," that's like Robert Plant, Alison Krauss, folky country vibe song with the pedal steel and all that. It's a totally different thing, and a fusion song. So King Crimson.
And you can go from instrumental at the beginning and bring in the songs and lyrics too. Give it that different feel.
Well, yeah. I wanted to set up the album with something that was like, that's why it starts with Greatest Silence. It really has a cinematic feel to it to kind of set up the whole record, not just song. I'm trying to weave a story so at least it feels like a story's being told.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad you liked it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to hearing what you have coming out down the road. I know we're not thinking about that now, but it gets me excited about the next chapter. And I know it's it's probably tough to take that jump into the unknown when you've had this stability of Quiet Riot throughout your career.
Yeah, and other things, but I got to say that for anybody that's going out there on their own. It is a little bit of a daunting thing to take on. You're wearing all the hats, and you got to oversee everything, and you got to make sure everything's done. So there's a lot to deal with. But I'm into it, so it's good.
And when it has all your name on it, it all lands on your shoulders, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And there it is.
There it is. Well, Chuck, good luck with the album release.
Yeah, nice meeting you, man.
Nice meeting you as well. And have a great rest of your day, okay?
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
That was the interview with Chuck Wright here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right, going to close it out here with a couple of stories about what's going on in the music world. So we're all up to speed there. First, this one, we talk a little bit about the Ukraine in the interview with Chuck. Well, U2's Bono and The Edge performed in a Ukraine subway station recently, and they haven't been doing a lot of shows. So this is a really unique, rare opportunity that some had to be able to see them. They did a 40-minute concert in Kyiv and praised Ukrainian fighting for their freedom from Russia. Your president leads the world in the cause from freedom right now. The people of Ukraine are not just fighting for your own freedom, you're fighting for all of us who love freedom, Bono told a crowd of up to 100 gathered inside the metro station. There's only 100 people at that show. That's going to be really intimate and cool. And see if there's any other notes from that. But Bono rallied the crowd between songs during his performance. This evening, 8th of May, shots will ring out in the Ukraine sky, but you'll be free at last. They can take your lives, but they can never take your pride, he said. Bono is a really deep one. I've had a chance to see U2 just a couple of times back in 2001 on their Elevation tour, and it was such a moving, impactful show that they did. And even with thousands of people in an arena, you still feel like you're right there, and it's so small and intimate. And I mean, I was right there actually. The second night I was in the Heart, which is 250 people right up close to this stage that's shaped like a heart on that tour. Got to shake Bono's hand. I mean, that was pretty cool. I had a big concert balloon that I'd blown up, and the Edge kicked it. So I was really young then, and interned for a radio station in San Francisco, and really had a chance to see that show twice, which was pretty cool. All right, the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Flea is rumored to appear in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the newest edition of the Star Wars series, and that's just a cameo right now, but it's the reports are in. So this is going to be released on May 27th on Disney Plus, set 10 years after events in 2005's Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi witnessed his Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker turn to the dark side, and so Flea may make an appearance in the movie. We don't know to what capacity. It'll probably be a small little cameo. Maybe he'll be in a stormtrooper outfit or something like they do sometimes. Put random celebrities in stormtrooper outfits and to get them into the movie, and so as a little Easter egg thing. So we'll see if we are able to actually see Flea in Obi-Wan. Okay. Death Cab for Cutie have revealed that they've finished their new album. This would be their 10th album, and new music's going to arrive next week. The band released their latest studio record, Thank You for Today, back in 2018. A 5-track collection of covers titled The Georgia EP came out in 2020, which I remember listening to that. That was pretty good. And Death Cab took to social media to post a photograph of themselves in a large recording studio. New album done, the group wrote as a caption on Instagram, telling fans that the first slice of a new music from the first full-length project will arrive on May 11th. And there's a link to pre-save the as of yet untitled track. So that's coming out. And Ben Gibbard spoke to NME in 2021 and explained that his then new signature Fender Mustang guitar had been inspiring Death Cab's new LP. We've got a lot of songs, and I'm really happy with the material, he said. I'm sure a lot of musicians say that their new material is the best thing they've ever done and try to hype it up. I don't want to give it that weight, but I can say that I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a really good record. Yeah, it's tough when you have this pinnacle, and that's just, you know, even aside from commercial success, is just such a success and such a part of fans' lives. Transcendentalism was such a great album, and that's like 20 years ago at this point that came out. So they've obviously made a number of albums since then, but they've left their mark for sure. That to look forward to. All right. And then the last story is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame revealed the class of 2022. It's interesting, you know, the direction that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame takes, because by definition, you expect the artist to be rock artists in rock and roll in some capacity, and a lot of them are not even in that genre really, but they make the cut. So this year's nominees will be inducted on the ceremony on November 5th in Los Angeles will be Pat Benatar and Neo Giraldo, new wave chart toppers Duran Duran, hip hop heavyweight Eminem, synth pop duo Eurythmics, country legend Dolly Parton. Much to her chagrin, she wrote them a letter saying, "No, thank you. I don't think I should be taking this spot. I haven't made a mark in the rock world, and thank you for the consideration, though." And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame came back and said, "Yeah, too bad. Sorry, we're gonna induct you anyway, right?" Lionel Richie is also going to be in the Hall of Fame, and pop singer-songwriter Carly Simon. They are leading the class. Let's see, who else? Judas Priest, I guess. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are joining for musical excellence. I think that's the majority of the artists that are going to be a part of the ceremony. So more to come as that gets closer. But that is our show for today. That winds up the music news. So I want to thank you for tuning in to the program. We'll be back again next week, as we always are, with another band. I'll hint at some of the stuff that we have coming up. I will let you know that we have Data Rock coming up on the program, but we also have some other bands from that are playing Bottle Rock. Like I said, the Happy Fits we're going to be interviewing leading up to Bottle Rock, as well as some at the festival and other stuff that I have in the works as well. So thank you for tuning in. And for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.